Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the world of Raceface for the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series Season 10, Round 6, here in Italy at Misano. And I am so looking forward to being back in Italy. We've seen what Monza can do, especially with the Formula 1, so I'm excited to see what the GT3s can do around the beautiful track of Misano. Very interesting circuit to go around that when it first came out had people trying to figure out which way do I go exactly. But joining me in the commentary booth that always gets lost and manages to go and confuse every Garmin out there, the one, the only, Yaneman Press. Yaneman, welcome to Italy.
Good evening, Stephen. Yes, good to be back after my absence last night. But you said it regarding this track. It's kind of a difficult one. It's one of those tracks where you can either be quick at or horribly slow. As we have a look at the track map and you watch this line, now the green line, those three right-handers in succession, Stephen, the one tighter than the next. So, I mean, it's easy to lose the rear end of the car there. Track limits definitely going to come into play, especially after the third right-hander before the Curve del Carro. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I think you just insulted some Italian somewhere, and he's just thrown
I do apologize.
He's thrown the pizza on the ground and gone, this guy cannot pronounce. He obviously has pineapple on his pizzas.
Actually, I don't, but just putting it out there. But it's a difficult track in more ways than one. I mean, the last sector. Then let's talk about the red section there, the first sector. I mean, turn one, not that big of an issue. You can take a lot of curb there. Then turn two, a tighter left-hander, so you need to watch your entry there, position the car correctly. And then sometimes you struggle to get the power down out of turn two through the right-hander. Cars tend to get a little bit squirmy around there, and then very short straight, and then those two very tight right-handers right after each other, and then into the left-hander, and kind of call it a back straight, because this is the one of the longest straights you'll have before we go into the true sector 3.
Well, as we were talking about turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, which is the Variante del Parco, going and
that one.
having the cars exiting pit lane will be coming out on the apex of turn 3, well, on the outside of turn 3 as you're trying to straighten yourself out. So they are going to be in the way, and something that the drivers are going to be well aware of, especially here at the likes of Misano for the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series. But let's take a look at qualifying at the moment that's currently on. And we have got Tim back on the cameras, and a big shout out to Tim. We got Jim as well, also giving us a bit of insight of how things can go. But to everyone in the grandstands, great to have you all. Great to see it. To see Kleinhans going and jumping in and saying how's it. It's always fantastic to chat to Kleinhans. Actually had a chat to him over the course of the weekend, saying that how come you're not texting us anymore? And he says, well, the competition's been so fast and fierce of late, I don't think I can. So he can't take his hands off the steering wheel like he used to. Josh Herbst being the first one into the comments, and welcome, Josh. Glad to have you here as well. Always interesting to see, guys, who's first into the box for the comments. And Josh, well, you get the trophy. Well done. You get, you know what, for being first, I'm going to give you the best thing in the world. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm going to give him the best award possible. And that is a virtual handshake for coming first.
I knew it was good.
But
I'm still waiting. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
No, I'm still waiting for my Eagle sound for Air Force One. Is Air Force One on the track tonight?
Well,
just a quick question.
I'm not 100% sure if Air Force One is on tonight. I don't see SESAs, but
no,
well, we take
don't see SE.
Oh, actually, there he is in 5th. There is Air Force
There
One.
we go.
So yeah, I need to get my Screaming Eagle back in action. I will try and do it. I've been frantically working around with the software to do it, and gotta tinker a little bit more. But let's take a look out in the field. First place, Morgan McCall. He is putting in a great charge, a circuit that he has done very, very well at in the past. And like his brother, Junior McCall, when they originally raced around it together, early on when they were in the 80K team, they did a fantastic job of going and battling out with some of the faster drivers. So let's see if Morgan will be able to keep the pace up and keep the tradition going. Second place, Justin Lotus. Daniel de Villiers in 3rd. Johan van Merwe. Sorry, as it all changes, because Cameron de Bastos in 2nd. Justin Lotus. Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers. We heard him having a chat. And a big shout out to PWSR, because I am super, super proud of this. And yes, you can call it favoritism, but I am very patriotic. I love South Africa. I love supporting South Africa. And seeing the Springbok colours, PWSR going and showing off those Springbok colours in support to the World Cup as our nation's team go and take on the world and look to bring back the gold where it belongs, in the land of the gold. So I'm looking really forward to that, and big shout out to them. Daniel Dematras Petro, he's out, well, he's behind the ambulance. I think he's getting checked out.
Hopefully he's not in the ambulance.
Yeah, no, hopefully he's just saying how's it. Johan Kleinhans, he's out in the Lego car. Definitely going to have a bit of fun out there. Johan van Merwe out in the circuit. Sanjin Pillay. And then we've got Sean Verveers. Sorry, that's Leclerc Basson. There's Verveers, Leclerc Basson, Tinian Kube, Charles Darden, Eric Kirstein, Tienas Buerta. Good to see him out there as well. Jaco Krobler, along with Ryan Ottens, Kieran Duplessis, Mac van der Merwe, Christian Venter, Hansi Meyerberg, and Nicholas Manuel rounding out our field. We have got 22 cars, but a lot of people going and not able to make it to the night due to the stage 6 load shedding, which has pretty much plagued the entire country. You guys have 4-hour runs, and this actually takes us to where our championship comes in, because Ryan Ottens is leading out the championship at the moment with 223 points. Second place is Bashir Jadwat. Now, we saw him get a fantastic drive in the previous race, actually winning in the previous race. Unfortunately, unable to make it due to load shedding. He's sitting on 166 points. So the championship hopes starting to slip a little bit. Round 6 being a bit of a problem for him. SES, who is out on circuit, is currently lying in 3rd place. So SE has got it all to play for at the moment. And Air Force One looking to try and maximize points. He's on 136 points. Then we have got Sanjin Pillay. He is lying in 4th place. Daniel Demarchas-Petro, which I see him out in 1st place. There he is in the Lamborghini. Heinrich Sichers, and I don't see Sichers here this evening. Mahath Musa is lying in 7th place, followed by Nicholas Manuel, Kevin Duplessis, along with Daniel De Villiers, Johan van der Merwe, Justin Lotus, Ronaldo Boersma, Lucu Besson, Jason McGregor, Alan Patterson, Charles Darden, Christopher Adloft, Isam Domingo, Tiernis Buerta, Darren Miller, Jean Fafiers, Eric Kirstein, Cameron de Bastos, Heinrich de Vet, Jaco Krobler, along with Grant Sebastian, Giovanni Porzero, Dean Cabasa, Tini Nkube, Hansi Myberg, Johan Kleinans, Marais, along with AJ de Kock, Chris Heineke, Kerry Duplessis, Schultz, Jamie Rees, Martin Rotenbach, Loic Randabel, Morgan McCall down in 42nd position, Daniel Rowe in 43rd, and last is Jean Leroux. So a couple of drivers unable to make it, but there is drivers currently out on the circuit that are going to be walking home with some very valuable points for their championships as they look to climb as we're heading into the more closing stages of the championship.
Oh, you said it. 3 rounds left. Tonight, round 6, so it's only 6, 7, and 8 to go. And as we know in Raceface, we like to say every lap counts. So there's no drop rounds, no anything. So Stephen, on a night like tonight, it is unfortunate that a couple of drivers are going to lose out due to load shedding. But, you know, if the luck of the draw is on your side, tonight is the night where you can rack in a couple of valuable points, as you said. Just one thing I'm going to mention as we had a look at some of the cars going round. Stephen, Misano, pit exit. It must be one of... Yeah, well, you mentioned that it goes out or feeds out to the outside of turn 2 as the cars go through it. But in terms of pit exit, it must be the longest time spent on the pit limiter after you've actually left the pits on ACC.
I have to agree. I think the longest pits that is around in the sim racing world and the real world has to be Spa with the Enduro pit when you've got the whole climb up the hill. But in the Assetto Corsa Competizione, Misano being one of those very, very difficult circuits and longest time that you're sitting on the pit limiter, by the time you get off it, you feel like you've waited years and years and years. You've got grey hair on your way out, and that's something that the drivers are going to be very frustrated with, and they're going to have to be patient because as you're exiting the pits, you can see the circuit, but yet you can't put it into second. You can't come off that pit limiter, but you can see the cars to your right-hand side coming at you. I know from experience, coming out of turn 2, heading into turn 3, which is a slight right-hander, because as per the FIA rules, and this is just for barroom talk for anyone that knows, if you look at a definition of a corner in the FIA rules, for a track to classify as a corner, it has to be 15 degrees or more turning. So our turn 3 is that little kink. It's more than 15 degrees as much as you just flat on the gas for it. But the guys are going to have to be well aware of it because as you come out a little bit wide, you're going to be getting right into where the guys are feeding out, and you've got to be so careful. I've actually had it where it got into a nice little tussle as we see Sanjin Pillay make his way through, gets into the kink, and as you come out, you can quite easily get bottled up because we've got to mention that this is a mandatory pit stop race in the 55-minute race, so the guys will have to get in and out of the pits. So the last thing you want to do is get caught out with all the guys coming out of it. At the same time, you don't want to get caught with a penalty because you jumped on the button a little bit too early. Interesting enough though, Mac van der Merwe, I do want to point out, has passed the vibe check. The Vibe Squad driver now back out on the circuit after some time. So welcome back, Mac van der Merwe. Good to see you there, buddy. And well done on passing the vibe check. Took you long enough. Ryan Ottens, though, out in first place with that 133.182. Absolutely incredible. C in second place. Daniel Petro, who's currently in third place, trying to pick up the pace. But it is so easy to go and drop a wheel off and get those track limits. You and I have both been at this, because I remember this was actually one of the very few tracks you and I did battle, and you were in the Bentley and had that very situation. By dropping a wheel off on the circuit, you landed up with a drive-through penalty landing into play. As we see, Daniel Petro puts it into first place. But turn one being so deceptive that you can take the corner, not realizing those sausage curbs can bounce you to the moon and back. So every driver is going to have to be well aware of those, as it can just send you flying. As I said, you've had this before. You think that there's a lot more road than you actually can use.
Absolutely. And you mentioned me and you doing battle. I don't want to give away my age, but I remember a race a couple of years ago where me and Alan Patterson had a huge battle around Misano. And at that stage, I was driving the Aston Martin. It was one of my very first leagues I participated in when I went over to BC from console, and Alan was driving the Lexus.
A very, very safe, was a very safe vehicle, and a lot of grunt to it. But we don't see any of the Lexus at the moment, because it's pretty much an old car, much like the Bentley. We do see the new young gun cars jumping in, like the Lamborghini GT3 Evo Huracan that's out on circuit with Daniel Petro driving it. Then you have got second place Ryan Ottens in the 296 Ferrari, brand spanking new out the box, battling it out. He has got C, his teammate, trying to make up a bit of time. You look at the lap times though, 133s around the circuit is no easy feat for any of the drivers. Then you got Johan van der Merwe, who is out on a mission this evening, lying in fourth place in qualifying. That McLaren looking a little bit more hooked up, and it's something that you have brought up, because we've seen the McLarens over time getting closer and closer to the sharp end of the field. The guys starting to figure out how they all work, and now getting to that point where it's all or nothing, and drivers have started they've figured out what the car is, what it needs to do, how they need to put the power down, and what they need to do to climb that ladder. There's no waiting around, there's no guessing, does this car understeer, oversteer, what's the nature of the vehicle? Now we're seeing the guys giving it their absolute all. And I've got to point out, we've got a couple of cars with a very loose setup to try and get a little bit quicker as the checker flag comes out for our qualifying.
Oh, you mentioned cars that look a bit loose. I had a look at the McLaren of Morgan McCall a little bit earlier. Does think he runs the car fairly loose. I saw the car squirming out of the corner. Now that can be one or two things: very low traction control, or not a lot of rear wing on that McLaren of you.
Yeah, I'm not getting as much aerodynamic assistance coming in. I know a lot of drivers like our pros that are out on circuit, because this is our pro server. We do have a Pro-Am, which is racing at the exact same time, same track, same conditions, but we do know the pros like to run it a little bit more on that risky blade versus everyone else, which is always an interesting time to see, and especially what the tires are going to do here at Misano, how they're going to wear it down. Do you think there's going to be tire changes this evening in this 55-minute sprint race with one mandatory pit stop? Do you think they can afford a tire change?
No.
Or do you think it's going to be just a run down to the wire?
One tire set start to finish. Tire should last around here 55 minutes, but I don't think you can get the time back, Stephen, for losing what's at about 30 seconds to change a set of tires. I mean, you'll have to be pretty rapid at the start, and then again after you fit your new set of tires. I think we're going to see two extremes. We're going to see either pitting very early to get it done and dusted, or leaving it extremely late. I predict a couple of the front runners to leave it up until the last couple of seconds.
Yeah, I have to agree on that one. It's going to be a difficult one. But Daniel Petro starting out in first place, followed by Ryan Ottens, Kieran Duplessis, Morgan McCall lying in fourth, fifth, Cameron de Bastos, Johan van der Merwe, Johan Kleinans, Justin Lotus, Mac van der Merwe in ninth, Sunjin Pillay rounding out our top 10. SES days, Gideon Rayner, Daniel de Villiers, Christian Fenter getting back out on the track, Alan Patterson, headed PWSR in the Springbok colours. And then we got Sean Verveers, Jean Verveers, I do apologize, Leclerc Basson, Tiernas Buerta, Eric Kirstein, Charles Darden, Tini Nkube, Hansi Myberg out on the track. We had a chat to Hansi a little bit earlier. Dean Kabasa, Jaco Krobler, Nicholas Manuel, who was serving a quali ban. That's why he's so far back down the field, and that was due to an incident in the previous race. And Grant Sebastian lining up next to him in the big mighty Mercedes. But yes, we have got one driver that is suffering a bit of a... He had a qualifying ban, so he had to wait and then get going once again. So fighting all the way from 25th position is no easy feat, and I think all these drivers are well aware of the situation at hand. But Daniel Petro and Ryan Ottens. Now, Ryan Ottens leading out the championship. He knows what he needs to do. He's going to be on the outside going into turn one, and that's going to allow Daniel to be able to get the inside line, hook it in and go. But maybe, just maybe, we will see a bit of a jump. I am going to keep an eye out on Kieran Duplessis, Morgan McCall, and Cameron de Bastos, because they have been on a rapid charge, and their reaction times have been very, very impressive this season.
And absolutely, they've started closing the gap to the front of the field. But one thing we just need to note before they get underway, Daniel Petro out in front, Ryan Ottens second, but he's got a teammate in Kieran Duplessis in third place that can cover the rear of his Ferrari should everything go according to plan. Stephen, I'm going to hand over to you.
All right, as they make their way down, Jim waiting with the start line lights, and a big thank you to our marshals. Green lights, go, go, go. Daniel trying to get the jump early on, cuts off the nose of Ryan Ottens, who tucks in behind. He's going to try and follow through. As you mentioned, Kieran Duplessis getting a fantastic drive, side by side as they go. Morgan McCall getting a monstrous drive, jumping himself up into second place. As you see Kieran Duplessis trying to make up some ground. Oh, the Genesis driver, Daniel Petro going out wide. Contact with Ryan Ottens. That drops him back. Morgan McCall jumping into second place and drops into third because Kieran Duplessis gets by. Now Morgan has to deal with Johan van der Merwe, Cameron de Bastos right onto it. But 3 into the corner was not going to work. And Cameron de Bastos and van der Merwe looking left and right. Morgan having 2 McLarens blocking up those mirrors. Both going a little bit wide. Van der Merwe losing out the drive. Now has to go side by side. Kleinans not backing down at this point. Under braking. Try and keep it all together. Just making it. And it does look like Cameron de Bastos losing... sorry, that's Kleinans losing the drive. And he, loses the drive while trying to brake. Not to go into the side of Cameron de Bastos. A slight rub between the two as they fight their way through. It does look like Daniel Petro has got Gideon Rayner. Looks up on the inside. Gideon going out wide, losing out of position, and that is also going to allow Christian Fenter to try and go for the inside line. He really sinks it deep on that curb, along with SES Ace, and does look like that is Tiernas Buerta and Justin Lotus landing into the weeds as well. Couple of cars getting their stops in early on in the race, but it has been a very, very eventful start. I can say that for certain.
Yeah, absolutely. That turn 4 incident, was it between Ottens, Daniel Petro and Morgan McCall on the inside. Stephen, I don't think Ryan Ottens had anywhere to go because he had Morgan McCall on his inside, so running out of room everywhere. As you said, 3 into 1 corner does not normally work.
And the problem is you're going and barreling at such a speed. You look like you can make it, but unfortunately that corner tightens up quite a bit. And when you get stuck in the middle of the situation, you've got a huge, huge problem. You've got to realize that someone has to give. And these drivers are looking for everything. As we see Mac van der Merwe up on the inside of Kleinans. Pushes out Kleinans a little bit wide. Sunjin Pillay says, thank you very much. He's going to try and get the drive. The Ferrari trying to straight line it. Has to hit the brakes. Kleinans, though, deep send on the inside, goes in a little bit too hot, and slight contact between himself and Mac van der Merwe, both managing to carry through. But Sunjin Pillay getting the win on that one and still trying to open the gap to the likes of the two of them. Now Daniel Petro, who started out way in the front, down in 9th position, trying to claw his way through it. So Daniel had a bit of an issue at the start. That dropped him way down the order from where he wants to be. Now he's trying to figure out how to get past the Zodiac racing machine of Kleinans just ahead of him. Goes out a little bit wide, really trying to venture and use as much of the road as possible. That Lamborghini looking a little bit hooked up, but the McLaren just having the legs at the moment.
Yeah, Daniel trying his utmost best to get past Kleinans. I'm just having a look at track limits. Watch out, Daniel. You're pushing that, closing up under braking. You're pushing that car very hard, using all of the available track, and I'm just wondering if track limits are not going to become an issue later on in the race. But look at the fees. He's now on the back of Daniel Petro, and just behind him is Gideon Renner. So these guys aren't holding back, Stephen. And just behind them, SES Terrazen and Leclerc-Blasson also not too far behind. So I know it's early in the race, but some awesome racing in the early stages of this Misano race.
Now that's it, and our train getting a little bit bigger and bigger every single time. Sanjin Pillay dealing with Mac van der Merwe is able to open up the distance, but out in front, Quinn Duplessis out in second place, right up against his teammate. Has got Morgan McCall starting to push for pressure though, to try and take that top spot. Couple of cars pulled into the pits early on to get their pit stop done and dusted. Cameron de Bastos being one of them. He was involved in a little bit of incidents and contacts early on. Alan Patterson, Christian Fenter, also Hansi Myberg, along with Nicholas Manuel, who did serve that drive-through penalty. Or not drive-through, the quali ban. He's able to get himself up. He gets past Justin Lotus. Oh, I see contact. And that is Daniel Petro and Kleinans coming to blows with one another by the looks of it, and Leclerc-Blasson as well. So let's see if we can try go back and see what happened. There is Daniel right behind Kleinans. Kleinans in the McLaren, the Lego car, showing off what it can do. Daniel getting the driver, looks for the inside, gets cut off, takes a curb as they try. Oh, a little bit of a slide on both parts, and the driver's having to take serious evasive action. But Kleinans losing out on that one because Daniel just had the speed. Unfortunately, that Lamborghini just didn't want to bite as hard as it wanted to. So Daniel going and giving the position back. He's saying, look, not the way I wanted it, but let's roll it back a little bit. Drive through penalty.
Right through.
And there it starts. You talked about the track limits coming into play. Well, there's our first one. Kylian Reiner with that drive-through penalty has now got Eric Kirstein all over the back of him. That's going to be a two-stop strategy now coming into play for him, and not what he wanted to see. But Eric Kirstein's going to be rubbing his hands together. He knows that he's just got to stick close enough. Goes for the inside line. And at this point, does he want to keep pushing? Yes, he does, because Leclerc-Blasson and Fifia's just ahead of him are trying to make up some ground. Back up to the top of the end of the field, it's Morgan McCall onto the back of Quinn Duplessis. Literally 0.1 of a second between these two as they fight their way through. McLaren versus Ferrari as they do everything they can. It does look like our leaders have caught up to, I think it's Daniel de Villiers. Yes, it is. Daniel de Villiers in 26th position. Now has got Ryan Ottens onto the back of him. Blue flags being waved, and he is going to be well aware of the situation. Ryan Ottens going, okay, I need to try and figure out how to get past you. But Quinn Duplessis, that's the last thing he wants to see. Morgan McCall thinking, right, now I can box him in. What can I do? As they fight their way through. And I think everyone had a cup of coffee without milk and sugar before this race, because they are really getting arms out with one another. They had a strong cup of coffee.
Like a double espresso.
I think they just chucked the beans in the cup, and that's what they chow.
Chew it like tobacco.
That's it. Quinn Duplessis getting held up though as he's trying to figure out his way around the likes of de Villiers and Morgan McCall. What a send! He goes out wide though, and that goes side by side. And I've got to talk about opportune moment. Both of them having a slight contact. Morgan have to counter steer there, but Morgan, what an opportune pass! I mean,
that would have made Jeff proud.
He's got a wheel. You know, have you ever seen the South Park beam where the guys go to he's got a wheelbarrow in front of him. That's as far as I'm going to go, because take a look at that deep send, and just relying on the car, knowing what it can do. I've got to say, talk about some highlight moments in racing, and that's it. Morgan McCall also putting in the fastest lap time of that race, despite everything, which is hats off. Honestly, it's brave to do a move like that. I think every single one of us that do sim racing will be rather impressed with it. Daniel Demetrius-Petro, he's down into 16th now and is caught behind Kleinans as they make their way through. They're getting past Gideon Reyna, who is serving his drive-through in the pits as they make their way through. Kleinans not backing down at this point, knowing that likes of Daniel's behind him, but the two know each other very, very well and going to work it out. But my heavens, some exciting racing and some really good side-by-side moments as Kewen trying to go around the outside to make his way past. Daniel de Villiers also having Johan van der Merwe, who's watching the battle ahead. So Daniel de Villiers has just got a mirror full of everyone at this point as he tries to carve his way through the field. Nicholas Manuel doing the fastest lap time of the race now, and he is really trying to pick up the pace. He's down in 23rd position. He has served his pit stop and now is on a sprint race. Dives up on the inside of Hansi Myberg, and I don't think Hansi had any choice in the matter on that one.
No, not at all. I think Hansi just moving out the way and letting carry on his merry way. As we see McCall in the pits, I think McCall just dove into the pits there. So I think he feels like he's losing time in this battle with Kewen du Plessis. Rather get the pit stop out the way, get into some clear air, and try the overcut strategy.
Well, the thing is, if he can get it ahead of 15th place, which is Daniel Demetrius-Petro right now, and Johan Kleinans, as we see Daniel diving into the pits, Kleinans making his way past. So if Morgan can just get ahead, and I don't think so, he's coming out of the box. Nope. I think he's going to drop down. He needs to get ahead of Cameron de Bastos if he wants to get away with it. Here comes Cameron, but maybe, just maybe, sitting on that pit limiter. Oh, agonizing. This long drive is going to be agonizing. And let's see if Cameron's going to be able to get to him. I think Morgan McCall might have done the overcut, but now has pushed him right back into traffic. He's going to have to be well aware of the situation. So, I've got to say, start of the race, the guys within the first 10 minutes getting their pit stop out the way because they don't want to deal with it. And this circuit does lend itself to keeping the flow of the circuit, keeping the flow of the track, constantly putting your head down and get back involved in the fight. So let's see how it's all going to turn out as time goes. Tiernas Botha is going and making up a bit of ground. He's trying to get onto the back of Eric Kirstein at the moment as they fight their way through. So far out in front though, Ryan Otten's leading out the field. Kewen du Plessis in second place. Johan van der Merwe in third. Fourth place is Sanjan Pillay. Mac van der Merwe in fifth. Sixth is Sean Verveers, along with Leclerc Besson, Eric Kirstein, Tiernas Botha, Charles Darden, Dean Kabasa, Jaco Grobler, Johan Kleinans, Morgan McCall in 14th. He has completed the first of his pit stops. He's getting chased down by Cameron de Bastos, along with Gideon Reyna, Alan Patterson, Christian Fenter, Essie Estes, Tinian Kube, Nicholas Manuel, Justin Lotus, along with Hansi Myberg and Daniel Demetrius-Petro, who's a little bit further down. He's in 24th. Grant Sebastian in 25th. And Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers, keeping up with our fourth place man, lying in 26th position. Honestly, I jumped up in excitement for that, and I think I've actually hit my knee hard enough to get pins and needles because my left foot's feeling it. But it's just, I didn't know where to look. The action, it was just everywhere at this point.
I mean, that's what the sprint racing is all about. Even non-stop action, start to finish, and the guys really throwing out everything out on track to try and get around this Misano track as quickly as possible. As we now have a look at Nicholas Manuel, he's got Tinian Kube in front of him. He's going to try and make short work of it, but I'm pretty sure Tini is not going to take the fight lying down. He's going to just try and make that life of Nicholas Manuel a little bit difficult.
Yeah, and also take a look at how much track's being used. Nicholas Manuel having to throw the car around a little bit, and that is trying to get some momentum out of it. We already had our first drive-through penalty issued, and the guys are going to have to try and figure out what they can do to ensure they can circumvent that problem. Full stop. But Nicholas Manuel right up against the back of Tinian Kube at the moment. SESAs is just up ahead. He's got quite a gap to them, about 4 seconds, but Nicholas Manuel trying to close it down. And Daniel Raceface.pro, I mean, at this point, he has got the hardest hit at the moment, all the way down in 22nd position. As Morgan McCall, what is going on with Morgan with the fastest lap?
That's going to work in his favor.
It's definitely going to do it, but let's take a look at who gained the most, who lost. Ryan Ottens up 1 position from where he started. Kieran Duplessis up 1 position, and 3 up is Johan van der Merwe. Sanjan Pillay up 6 positions. Mac van der Merwe up 4. Then we got Fafirs up 10. Leclerc Besson up 10. Eric Kirstein up 11 positions. Tennis Buerta up 9. Charles Darden up 10. Dean Kabasa up 12. Jaco Grobler up 12 positions so far. Morgan McCall, after that pit stop, down 9 positions. Started in 4th. He's in 13th now, but I think he is in the pound seat. Cameron de Bastos down 9 positions, followed by Gideon Rayner in down 3 positions. Alan Patterson down 1 position and on a major charge. Then we've got Christian Venter down 3. Essie Esterhuis down 6. Tenny and Kube up 3. Nicholas Manuel up 6. Justin Lotus down 12. Daniel Raceface.pro, he's down 20 positions. Grant Sebastian up 4. Johan Kleinans down 16th, and down 11 positions is Daniel de Villiers. But I did see my timing screen change rather rapidly, and I do want to point out Kieran Duplessis in first. Did Ryan Ottens just suffer? Yeah.
A disconnect.
Did Ryan Ottens just suffer? Oh, that's not going to help his championship hopes. But, I mean, he was out in the front, leading it out with a monstrous gap. And suddenly, all the way down the order, contact. Ooh. Charles Darden and Dean Kabasa. Darden able to keep it out of the wall. Dean Kabasa, though, is driving a bit slow. He's waiting for Charles Darden to catch up and make a bit of time. Charles Darden, though, spinning it round. Here comes Morgan McCall. He's stuck on the apex, so every car is going to have to straighten out. This is going to make life extremely difficult. Gideon Rayner and Alan Patterson having to take evasive action as they make their way through. Christian Venter, Essie Esterhuis, all getting by. So Charles Darden, after that twist round, is now having to play a little bit of catch-up, but that is going to affect him. Gideon Rayner started with that drive-through penalty, and still needing to do 1 pit stop, has got Alan Patterson all over the back of him. And I think Alan Patterson is going to be pretty much like a, I wouldn't say a hooker, I would say a left flank that's about to just make life a little bit more difficult for the drivers ahead of him. I played hooker. I got the biggest wedgie. Gideon Rayner going and getting a little bit squirrely, and there we go. Alan Patterson saying thank you very much, I will take this. And side by side they run down the start finish line. Dean Kabasa, though, also running into a bit of a problem. He has stopped dead in turn 2, so he got twisted around. Cameron de Bastos trying to come at him, but Alan Patterson getting that run. But Kieran Duplessis, no. Kieran Duplessis also with a disconnect. He's going down the order.
What's happening?
I've got a funny feeling with all the load shedding going on. Guys are having some very, very unsettling ones. Hansi Myberg saying he also suffered a disconnect, so he's out of the parcel and having to sit on the grandstands watching us. I mean, this is turning the race on its head.
Yeah, and at this stage, Stephen, I don't want to talk too soon because I know this driver has not had the best of luck, but at this stage with 37 minutes left to go, things are not looking bad for Morgan McCall. And I hope that's not a commentator's curse. Please, 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 please.
Yeah, and Bashir Jadwat's going to be keeping a very close eye on everything as it goes. Cameron de Bastos with Dean Kabasa. Dean Kabasa dropping a wheel onto the dirt, losing out a bit of drive. Here comes Alan Patterson along with Gideon Rayner getting past him. Those two are still flying in some information at the moment. Gideon Rayner trying to come back at Alan Patterson like he is on the All Blacks team, looking to try and get the points away from the South African team. But it's going to be a hard charge to get past there. And yes, I am using the very little knowledge I have of rugby at the moment because we're in that sort of week. It's a big support out to it. And seeing the colours out there brings me a bit of pride. Tini Nkube has Justin Lotus looking up on the inside, goes late under braking, able to get it by. It does look like Daniel also tries to carve his way through, was just a little bit too far back to go for the dive as Nkube gets back on the power. Bashir Jadwat saying, oh, Don had caught out with power and going to have to keep an eye on this. So Bashir Jadwat, who is out in the grandstands at the moment, and honestly, one day I'd like to have a chat with Bash in an interview because running second in the championship and also just being one of those welcome back drivers after a bit of a hiatus is always good to have a chat to them. Much like talking to Luke Addison, talking to a couple of other guys that have also returned over the time. Names are slipping my head at the moment. I do apologize. Daniel Demetrius-Petro, he gets past Tini Nkube. Then he tries to look for a way back, unable to do so as they fight their way through. And Tim the cameraman giving us all the fantastic shots at Misano. Mac van der Merwe now into the pits. He's getting his pit stop done. That's going to allow Morgan McCall to get by, and Jaco Krobler as well, who's on a bit of a monstrous charge through it all. Jan van der Merwe out in first place. Sanjan Pillay in second. Verveers in third. How's that for a bit of a change? Leclerc Besson, Tienus Buerta, they in fourth and fifth. Eric Kirstein, Jaco Krobler, and then we have got... Oh, no. So, we got Mac van der Merwe with a stop-go penalty and Charles Darden. And that is going to be getting off the button a little bit too early on the exit of the pits. And we've all been there before. The nerves kick in, the adrenaline's there. You just want to get going. You see all the cars. You can hear all the cars. And this is where the race starts changing up for a lot of these drivers. Christian Venter on the back of Mac van der Merwe, though. All he needs to do is just try and get past. He does so. Mac van der Merwe is going to try and battle him out. Side by side, Lamborghini and Ferrari. Mac van der Merwe trying to go out a little bit late on the brakes. Goes out wide, sinks it deep into the corner. Too wide. And here comes Christian Venter up on the inside. Side by side between the two. But Christian Venter able to get that little bit more drive. Mac van der Merwe still needing to serve that stop-go 30-second penalty. So he's looking to try and fight it out right until the wire. Looks for the inside, has the door immediately shut and sliding that bull around. But ultimately he wants to go grazing. It's coming back on circuit though. Stops dead. And Essie out of... Oh, man.
That's one of the problems sliding through there. You can actually return back on track. And there's absolutely nothing he could have done about it, Stephen. These cars don't slow down all that well on grass.
Yeah, and Essie at this point, this is his view. He can see Mac van der Merwe ahead of him. And watch Mac van der Merwe in the Lamborghini gets a little bit of a tank slapper sliding out. So Essie's like, okay, well, he's gone. I'm going to keep going around. As he makes a corner, thud, there's a Lamborghini. There's nothing you could do. Absolutely nothing. And he loses out of position to the likes of Nicholas Manuel, who capitalizes on the moment. I mean, this is absolute madness right now for the likes of Messina. Round 6 has really turned things upside down this evening. And, Scott, everyone pretty much standing on their feet.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Essie with it now, he's now going to have a little bit of front-end damage on that Ferrari of his, so might be harder on the tires than what he wanted to be, and he'll have to try and claw his way back. But that truly was an unfortunate incident, and something you could do nothing about.
You know what? The easiest way I can describe it, it's like throwing a boomerang, but forgetting it comes back.
I mean, it's a case of you drive along and say, ooh, there he goes. Nice, I got a position. And then you come around the corner and crap.
Yeah, suddenly it's
back.
Suddenly it's all there right in front of your face. So it's going to be an interesting one. So Christian Fenter's got Killian Rayner all behind him, and Killian Rayner running out a little bit wide. Cameron de Bastos, he's trying to get a little bit more drive, and he's got Alan Patterson, his teammate, right behind him, trying to push him along. Jaco Krobler also needing to do a pit stop. So let's take a look. 31 minutes to go. Jan van der Merwe out in first place, 4.9 seconds ahead of Sanjin Pillay, who is out in second place, so that's good to see. Then we've got Fafirs out in third. He is 10 seconds behind, still needing to do a pit stop. He's got his teammate Leclerc Basson trying to make up a bit of ground as well. Tierna Spuerta is lying in fifth position. Eric Kirstein in sixth. Seventh is Morgan McCall. So slowly but surely that climb starting to work in his favor. Kleinans though onto the back of Grant Sebastian. And Grant, who is sitting with a bit of a smile on his face, starting at the back of the field, now up to 18th position, and is now in a bit of a charging battle as the Kleinans looks to go on the inside. And I think he might have actually given that position. Did he? Might have. I'm looking for any indicators. I don't see any indicators on that car. Flashing his lights. So I think Grant Sebastian might have given Kleinans a little bit of room there as they work their way through. Both of them are actually friends out on circuit as well. So good to see the guys just having a bit of fun out there. I think it was a case of, you had me, good pass, let's keep the race going and try and close down the distance. Daniel de Martros-Petro, he's right up to Justin Lotus at the moment as they fight their way through. Everyone pushing as hard as they can, and there is Killian Rayner. Big damage to the front of his car. And would that be from the
He's not in it. Yeah, I just want to say, he wasn't in his pit box.
No, he actually stopped well beforehand. And let's see, he was onto the back of one of the Genesis Esports, carving his way through, gets a tank slap. Lamborghini just tossing around. And, yeah, I think he... Oh, into the wall in pit lane.
Coming in hot.
Yeah, unfortunately, just everything tightening up underneath him and smacking the pit wall quite at a pace. And I think a lot of frustration built up, and I've got a funny feeling he just said, listen, tow me back. It's only a couple of meters, but give me a chance to drink a bit of water, calm down a bit, and get back into it. And might have actually just retired that car as well, out of just pure frustration. Teammates going at one another though. Alan Patterson right onto the back of Cameron de Bastos as they make their way around the circuit here at Misano. And Cameron de Bastos just not getting the same drive as he would like. Alan Patterson all over the back of him, looking, hunting, trying to figure out what's going to work for him as they carve their way through the final corner. Alan Patterson looking a little bit more stable compared to the likes of Cameron de Bastos. SES has got a bit of an off circuit as well, a little bit further back, as he seems to be battling with that Ferrari, actually running out a little bit wide as well. So a couple of drivers still slugging it out there, having a difficult time out at Misano. Some cars just not being as hooked up as they would like to. Drivers going and unfortunately taking too much curb and landing up with a world of problem as well.
Yeah, these two PWSR cars reminds me of certain two red cars this past weekend at Monza, duking it out. And let's hope they are free to race, Stephen, and don't hold position. I actually love it when two teammates start battling it out on track.
When the radio message goes no risky racing, and next thing you see him locking up the brakes less than a couple of seconds later. Hopefully we don't get to see guys making too much of a problem. But while they're fighting it out, take a look. Christian Fenter is starting to close down the gap. He has got Nicholas Manuel also trying to get into the tow. SES stays a little bit further back, has got Justin Lotus. Daniel de Martros-Petro now up into that 15th position. He's trying to make up some time after a devastating start. And it does look like Essie has stopped. Yep,
Or
no.
disconnected.
Yeah, it's a
That's
disconnect.
a disconnect.
He's gone. Essie, Hayes pretty much went like a deer in the headlights and stopped dead. I've got a funny feeling, due to the instability in the power system at the moment, that we're starting to see these guys all suffering the same thing. The lines giving a little bit of issues, but that is providing some very interesting racing, like Justin Lotus and Daniel Petro. We've seen them battle out at the front. Not many times do we see them out of the top 10 going at one another. Alan Patterson getting past Cameron DeBastos, and I think that was a little bit of a helping hand there, because I do see some contact warning between the two. Did Alan Patterson just give Essie a slight bit of the Springbok rub and say, listen, buddy, yeah, we don't play with shoulder pads here. Looks up on the inside,
Touch,
unable to get
pause,
past.
engage.
Yeah, I think that was definitely it. And there's the touch, there's the pause, and there's the engage on the throttle as he powers his way through. So, a little bit of getting into a ruck situation there with his teammate, and losing out. Not losing out a slight bit of time. Cameron DeBastos, though, I think got the little bit of sorry, kind of was a bit fast into the corner, and you're a little bit slower into the corner than planned. But out in front, Johan van der Merwe for ZRC Scuderia, and I've got to say it's absolutely amazing to see that new names out towards the sharp end of the field. It does change it out, but due to unfortunate circumstances come to play. And also, did you know, gentlemen, because I found out this past weekend, as you see Nicholas Manuel get past Christian Venter. I think Christian was given just let Nicholas Manuel by, get into the toe. You two pull each other along and try and get a little bit more pace. But back up to what I was saying. ZRC, we've been commentating on them for a while. Do you know what ZRC stands for?
Zodiac Racing Club.
Zodiac Racing Community. Close.
Okay.
Close. That's genuine what it is. I got to ask. And one of the reasons was it was just a bunch of mates that got into racing together. They also played a lot of CSGO, which is Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, and more. So it's good to see it out there. Closest battle out on circuit, though, is Daniel Petro and Justin Lotus down in 14th and 15th position. They're still playing a bit of yo-yo with one another. But out in front, Johan van der Merwe, Sanjin Pillay in second place, Fafirs in third, fourth Leclerc Basson, Tierna Spurter, Eric Kirstein in sixth, Morgan McCall up to seventh place, Jaco Krobler in eighth place, ninth, Alan Patterson, followed by Cameron DeBastos, who's closed down the distance, Nicholas Manuel, Christian Ventus, Nicholas Manuel goes out wide, and he's able to keep it all together, trying to rejoin and get himself going. That's going to kill his drive and allow Justin Lotus to close up onto him, and Daniel Petro is going to be right onto the back of him very, very shortly, and I'm sure there's some radio communications coming here saying, Nicholas, you best get your foot on the throttle or be very cautious of a battle that's happening right behind you between Justin Lotus and Daniel Petro, because the last thing you want to do is get bottled up in this mix as they fight their way through. Tini and Kube in 16th. 17th is Johan Kleinans, Grant Sebastian, Daniel the Hitman de Villiers. Hasn't been the hitman at the moment. He has unfortunately been the target. Charles Darden, a little bit further back in 20th. 21st is Mac van der Merwe, who has parked it. Looks like he has retired the car. And Kieran Duplessis also retiring the car for the evening. So a couple of retirements from the start of this race. 23 minutes and 18 seconds to go, though. And it is really heating out on the circuit. This three-car train, though, Daniel Petro, Justin Lotus, and Nicholas Manuel is starting to build. Nicholas Manuel not getting the drive he wants, and I think that's because his tires are absolutely crying for mercy after that major slide he had.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That was a long slide, so those tires would have been glowing red, and it's going to take him a good lap or two, Stephen, to get those tires where they should be. And all while he's trying to do that and just get his tires under control, this battle that you're watching here between Daniel Petro and Justin Lotus is gaining up on him.
Oh we got, it looks like Jaco Krobler landing up. He pulls into the pits. So
Daniel de Villiers with the drive-through.
Daniel de Villiers has scored a drive-through as well. That's not going to be good to his race. Jaco Krobler trying to get himself going. He's got the two PWSR cars right behind him, and he tries to barrel it into the pit lane, hard onto the brakes. Also touching that Onco barrier, and if anyone wants to know how this Onco barrier feels like, it's you're coming out of a very, very fast corner, you're trying to slow it down, you're braking while cornering, and you can land up just going and knocking the Onco barrier. It's pretty much, it reminds me of Kailami's pit entry, where you come out of Cheetah, you're standing on the gas, and by the time you get to it, it just tightens up and you misjudge your pace. We've seen many of times of guys doing that, and it seems like it is starting to come into effect at the moment. A lot of drivers feeling that effect. From first to sixth, though, all needing to do a pit stop. Everyone else, though, still carrying on going. 21 cars still currently in the server. Unfortunately, it does look like we have only got 20 that are currently going and making their way around the circuit. Looks
Daniel
like
de Villiers also with a drive-through.
And Daniel de Villiers looks like he's retired the car. So Daniel de Villiers going and retiring the car. There's the track limits coming into play. Daniel Petro pulling into the pits, missing the Onco barrier this time, trying to get a little bit of pace as he slows the car down. But those track limits around this circuit is hurting every single driver out there, because we've seen it being handed out left, right, and center. You could swear we're back at the Red Bull Ring before Formula One.
Well, this might be the Red Bull Ring of ACC if it keeps on going like this.
It's going to be an interesting one, but Daniel Petro, he started out in the top. He started out in first place, and unfortunately, just falling down the order. Alan Patterson getting a little bit squarely out of the corner, and that's allowed Cameron de Bastos to get right onto the back of him. I see Daniel Petro has gotten back out on the circuit. So he's trying to get himself going, but a couple of drivers just not able to get them going. Daniel de Villiers saying feet are killing me on new load cells and trying to get used to it. So we're getting a bit of an answer there from the driver, and that does actually lean into new gear, getting into a race, and
the reason I'm laughing is because I used to be there. I mean, load cells are way different depending on what you're coming from, Daniel. I don't know what you were using before that, but I went, a couple of years ago, I went from Thrustmaster T3PA pedals to load cell pedals, and it was quite an adjustment to get used to it.
Oh, well, I think you're both wrong, because you haven't driven a car with drum brakes for a long time. Because
I used to drive a Beetle.
Yeah, and you know what a Beetle's drum brakes are. They stiff as a rock and don't slow you down for anything. Johan van der Merwe out in first place. Sanjin Pillay in second. Third is Fafiers, along with Leclerc Basson and Eric Kirstein in fifth position. All still needing to do one more pit stop. 18 minutes left to go. This race doesn't feel like it has been this long. I feel like we haven't done 36 minutes of racing, because it's just been action after action every step of the way. So you see Nicolas Manuel and Essie Estes, they are duking it out. Essie still suffering from that front end damage after having a Lamborghini stopping dead in front of him after spinning out. So
parallel parking.
Yeah, parallel parking was beautiful. It was stunning. So they are duking out. Tini Nkube is on the back of Tienes Buerta. Buerta doing everything he can to try and defend from Nkube, who's really laying down the hurt at the moment as they battle their way through. But it's been a race. Now, I do want to point out, you do get it wrong around the circuit, you got a problem, because the other one, it's 35 degrees out on the track. It means if you get a bit of a slide, to try and cool your tires down, cool the brakes down, is not an easy feat. Yes, it's 26 degrees ambient temperature. So if you're sitting in the grandstands, it's 26 degrees. But if you're closer to the circuit, you're going and you can put your shoe on it and start melting the rubber off it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And Tini Nkubi is trying to melt the rubber off Buerta here and really setting his sights on him at this stage. Not really close enough to really crank on the pressure. So, he's trying to edge it up. He's getting closer inch by inch almost. But it does look like he had a good run through turn 2 there. Maybe he can close up through this tight little double right-hander and then the left-hander section.
Oh, no contact!
Outbraking himself.
Outbraked himself and contact into Buerta. Buerta getting twisted around, and Kube going and trying to get himself going. He selected the wrong gear, and that allowed Kleinans to gain a position. So just that misjudging under braking, and that's something we're seeing a lot through that double right-hander. It's very common for drivers, and let's actually jump on board with Nkube. You can see the brake marker on the left-hand side that you just got to try and venture for. He didn't expect. He went into the corner way too hot there. If there wasn't the likes of Buerta ahead of him, I think he would have gone spiraling into the wall as fast as possible, and that Lamborghini would have been feeling a lot more, but has suffered a bit of damage, and you can hear him feathering the throttle at the moment, and that's the reason for his tow back.
Interesting that he decided to tow back to the pits with that one and not, if the damage was, extensive, maybe just drive it back to the pits.
I think
lose less time.
I think it's a little bit of frustration that came in, as well as you don't want to get in anyone's way, especially at the last part of this race, because it's literally getting to that last part. So you see Justin Lotus trying to go up on the inside of Nicholas Manuel, tried going for the inside line, couldn't get it, as SESA is also losing out the drive to Christian Fenter as they barrel their way through the circuit. But I think it's a lot of, let's rather get it back and then get it going. And it looks like Tini Nkube has retired the car. So either the damage was quite extensive, or the driver decided, no, that's it. He's had a bit of a miserable run this time round and is going to rather park the car. I'm
going to throw something out there.
Yep, as we see Daniel Demarchis-Petro dive up on the inside of Grant Sebastian, and Grant Sebastian not putting too much of a fight there. He's going to try and come back at him. Indicator, though, showing me that he is... I do want to, before you go, Grant Sebastian, I want to give you props on GT driving etiquette. Using an indicator showing exactly where you're going to be so the drivers know which way they need to go. Flashing his lights, he's telling Daniel, listen, I'm not going to go and fight with you. I want to use the slipstream. I think Daniel was actually saying thank you at that point, and thanks for letting him by. But well done on the proper etiquette. Not many people have set the indicators up, especially the BMW drivers. That comes in as an optional extra. But the Mercedes seems like they're working just fine. Carry on.
Does BMW have indicators?
Yes, it does. How I know is because we have to buy a globe for it.
Okay.
Whether it's connected is a different story.
So the globe needs to be replaced periodically.
Periodically, yeah.
So that people think there is indicated. And
no, it's because it gets enough rust on the contacts for not being used enough.
Okay.
That's how it happens, yeah.
Okay.
It's the build-up of rust. You can't let things rust. You have to keep it clean. Grant Sebastian also scoring a drive-through penalty, and that's going to be for track limits coming into play. So it's just been handing it over the whole time. Daniel De Villiers going and saying blinker fluid. I wouldn't call it blinker fluid. Wouldn't go that far, because that says that there is something there. The globe is to plug a hole, so if you undo the globe so you allow more airflow to the engine. That's the main thing. It's a performance add-on because you can open more air ducts.
I thought they take it out to save weight.
No. That's what the front grill's for, because it's missing every other car, every other part. So that's what it's there for.
The big nostrils, sucking in lots of air.
Yes, but while we're going on the divergent, you were going to bring something up.
Now, I just want to quickly hop back to the accident of Tini and Kirby in a issue with braking and then retiring a car. Do you think there was maybe some sort of mechanical issue? Nicholas Manuel.
Yep, he got it completely wrong there. And,
He had a mechanical issue. He ran out of grip.
Yeah, no, that's it. Mechanical grip .exe failed at that point. It is a possibility, but I'm leaning on going into the corner a little bit early. Take my reasoning onto this. We saw that nose dip down, which means he was hard on the brakes. The front suspension collapsed onto itself as it had all the weight moved forward. And unfortunately, what I think is that moment you think you can brake at the 50-meter board, when you're in a slipstream, you've got no pressure on the nose, means you're not getting that nose to tuck in or brake as hard as you can.
You thought you were going to brake at the 50-meter board, and then all of a sudden realized the 50-meter board was back there.
Yes, that's pretty much it. It's much like the spectator taking the DRS sign at Monza. The moment that you think it's there, it's not. But that's what I think what's happening, and it's a very common thing for the circuit, both in sim racing and in IRL, where the drivers go into the corner, they go 3 wide. It's very easy to get that tunnel vision because you're now trying to focus on where you're trying to brake. And if you're the car ahead, you're watching in your mirrors the whole time. You slightly got one eye off to keep an eye on it, as we see Sanjay Pillay is pulling into the pits. That's going to allow for Fears to... Yeah, so
again, Charles Darden.
Darden scoring 2 drive-through penalties this race. Yeah, Darden with the drive-through penalty. I think that's still his first, because looking at my system...
No, it just popped up on my side screen.
Yeah, so Charles Darden, he hasn't served... He didn't get a drive-through penalty. This is his first drive-through. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Can't be. He had one.
No, he had one before, yes. So that's something to go by. Eric Kirstein taking the fight to Morgan McCall, and I think there was a little bit of an elbow rub there between the two. Eric Kirstein not allowing Morgan to get past too quickly as we jump to Tim in the heli to take a look at Eric Kirstein in the silver Ferrari. Morgan McCall in the McLaren chasing down into turn 1, hard onto the brakes. Slight little bit of rubbing there. No harm, no foul. Changing paint, a little bit of red rims onto the side of that McLaren to go and spruce up the colours. But all making a good pass nonetheless.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've got 9 minutes left of this race. Still a couple of drivers needing to do their pit stops. Van der Merwe, Verviers, Basson, and then Eric Kirstein as well.
Van der Merwe's in the pits.
Van der Merwe in the pits. So, let's see what Verviers does. He still has a...
I think he's going to have to pit this lap if he wants to try and get away from it. Leclerc Basson's going to do everything he can to try and stretch it out. Both of them going past the pit lane. Very interesting. So is Eric Kirstein. They're going to try and run the wire out, run it a little bit deeper into the race. But I do want to point out Morgan McCall's up into 4th place, and Van der Merwe now has lost out the position to both Morgan McCall and Eric Kirstein. So Morgan's up into 3rd place. Maybe that early pit worked in his favor. Cameron De Bastos with a drive-through penalty now as he gets himself into the pits to get himself sorted out. So quite a few of the drivers having to push the limits on the track, and unfortunately the stewards are wide awake. They definitely had a good cup of coffee, and they are definitely keeping an eye on this, because it's turning into a monstrous race. Buerta trying to battle out with Daniel Demetrius-Petro, both of them going and having a great run out there. Daniel able to eke it out though, and getting a little bit more drive than Buerta just ahead of him. Charles Darden though into the wall. What on earth happened to him? He's trying to reverse it back onto the track. Yeah, That's a little bit broken. Let's take a look from an outside cam. Tim, keep us an outside cam. Let's take a look inside, because I think that helmet's going to be full of some very colorful words as he just runs over the curb, and that Ferrari.
Just lost the rear end.
Yeah, now Ferrari just saying it had enough and is going to be I mean, this has been a race to forget for some. Reversing back onto the circuit's never, ever fun for any driver that's going to be out on the track. So, a race to forget for some, a race that they will be smiling for others. 3 cars to do their pit stop, 19 cars still circulating due to various mechanical issues right the way down the order, except for Daniel de Villiers, who forgot to do leg day. He skipped leg day and is suffering.
He had a
for it.
mechanical failure. He had an ouchie left foot.
No. He skipped leg day.
You think he skipped left day?
Daniel, stop picking up the weights, buddy. You skipped leg day. We know this.
He needs to exercise that foot, that braking the whole time.
Slow down so he doesn't land up with that drive-through penalty, but still keeping into the survey. He is a 19th though, and has done enough laps that he can score points. SES stays all over the back of Christian Venter as he puts on the charge, closing down the distance. Essie in that Air Force One, looking to try go up on the inside, sends it. Can he make it work? Essie comes a little bit too much to the inside, a little bit of a bump in barge between himself and Christian Venter. No harm, no foul, but Essie is really battling out. Remember, he's still got that front aero damage from early on in the race, but he is taking the fight to Christian Venter at the moment as they battle out for 8th, 9th, and now Justin Lotus joining into the party, making it a 3-car train between them.
I mean, they're going to take the battle right to the end, Stephen, not holding back at all as we have a look. Justin Lotus running very wide through there. That's good. It's actually going to cost him a little time, but SES Tracer, he's right on the back of Venter, really trying to make his way forward. This last sector, very tight, trying to get under the rear wing of that car so that you can get that slipstream coming out the last corner. Try not to pick up too much aero wash. You see he follows a tighter line through there. Oh, and then the back row, but Lotus running wide.
No, but having a problem.
Not close enough.
Now, Essie just not getting the same drive, and you could see how much curb they're actually taking. Very, very brave not to unsettle the car. Eric Kirstein pulling into the pit, so Essie's now up into 8th place. Christian Venter just ahead of him, up into 7th position, trying to get away from this. He knows the train is starting to build because he's got SES days behind him, Justin Lotus there, and Nicholas Manuel has now caught up to the train as well. So it's getting into a four-car battle in the remaining 4 minutes and 18 seconds between them. But what a run this is going to be. Justin Lotus going in a little bit too deep, and Essie going out a bit wide. That's running very, very close. I think if anyone's worrying about track limits, all these drivers are on that knife's edge at this point between it, and the stewards have got their fingers on the buzzers. They're waiting for it. It's like a game of Family Feud. They're going to push the button when they can at this point.
I mean, absolutely, these guys are going at it hammer and tongs in the last couple of minutes, last 3.5 minutes of the race. Just quickly pointing out to the chat, Stephen, you spoke about leg day, and Daniel de Villiers came back with all sorts of excuses.
We all know what it is, buddy. We all know what it is. You can't get away from it. But congratulations of the new house. It's good to hear, guys, going in, moving up, and getting going once again. You know, it's good to hear these type of things. You get to know the sim racers a little bit more. I think we get to know them more from the grandstands versus actually talking to them, because the chats are a little bit more open for all our spectators, drivers and teams. But Christian Venter in 7th place, not having too much of a fun time as he's got the 4-car train right behind him. SES, Justin Lotus and Nicholas Manuel now getting into the tow. Christian Venter having his teammate behind the old train. Essie goes up on the inside, sends it. He tries, but Yep, there's the cutback.
Fenter getting past again.
Yeah, he tried it. He tried it the first time and it just didn't work. Tried again and he tried stopping it on the apex, but just couldn't get it there.
Yeah, I just went deep into the corner and that allowed Fenter to come back on that cutback. So Essie again behind him. It would have been a very good pass if he could make it stick, but unfortunately did not have the drive out of the corner. Just a little bit too late on the brakes.
Morgan McCall's in the pits. Why is Morgan in the pits?
Why?
No. Morgan's in the pits. He served his pit stop. That was up on the jack and down.
That was fuel.
That was fuel.
That was fuel.
No.
He underfueled. No.
From 3rd place down the order, he's into 10th at the moment. Oh, man. What a shaking goes. What a race. What a race this is turning into. As we see Christian Fenter still feeling the pressure of SES as Daniel Demetrius Pretcher and Kleinans are also going hammer and tongs at one another as they battle their way through. But, I mean, let's take a look at who's out in first. Verveers is out in first. He still needs to do his pit stop. Johan van der Merwe in second. 3rd place, Alan Patterson, Sanjan Pillay, Christian Fenter, SES Days, Justin Lotus, along with Nicholas Manuel in 8th. 9th, Leclerc Besson, Morgan McCall down in 10th place, Eric Hustain, Cameron De Bastos, Johan Kleinans battling out with Daniel Demetrius Petro. The two of them still slugging it out between them. Tinas Puerta also doing everything he can as we see Daniel up on the inside of Kleinans trying his luck. But
Alright, man, the leader is on the final
there we go, we're getting
what a
reports.
result for Alan Patterson that would be.
This is, I don't know, because, well, he's got to keep it together. I don't want to.
Still a long way to go.
I don't want to say anything. We know the leader's on his last lap. We just heard Jim say it, and Christian Fenter making his way through. So Verveer's down the order, but I don't want to say anything. I can't call it. I seriously cannot call it. Kleinans and Daniel Demetrius Petro coming together right at the last, and now having to get themselves sorted out. But Johan van der Merwe, I want to point out, from 6th place, going to be taking first if he can keep it all together in a race that has been to and fro for everyone. Alan Patterson all the way from the back at the end of the field, as it does look like Kleinans and Daniel Demetrius Petro again landing up with a bit of contact. Kleinans allowing Daniel to go by. They still side by side, and they're going to take it to the wire. But Johan van der Merwe started in 6th. Alan Patterson from 15th to 2nd place. Sanjan Pillay from 10th to 3rd at the moment. He's got some battle going on behind him. That's Christian Fenter right on his tail. But Johan van der Merwe taking 1st place. 2nd going to Alan Patterson with an incredible result. And just keeping it together down to the wire. Sanjan Pillay trying to keep ahead of Christian Fenter. Christian looks for the inside. Wasn't able to do it. Getting the drive down. Sanjan Pillay taking 3rd place. Christian Fenter followed by SES Days, Justin Lotus, Nicholas Manuel. Verveers in 8th, 9th, Leclerc Besson. Morgan McCall with a gut-wrenching 10th place after such a stellar drive. Fuel coming into play. Still finished, but gut-wrenching. Eric Hustain in 11th. 12th, Cameron De Bastos. Tianas Puerta. Johan Kleinans is still battling out with Daniel Demetrius Petro. These two are going to slug it out to the wire. They have gone and bumped. They have barged. They have worked against each other. They've used each other as brake markers. And now it's coming down to this one corner to go between the two. Kleinans getting the drive. Daniel not getting the exit he wanted. And will be finishing up with Kleinans in 14th. 15th is Daniel Demetrius Petro along with Jaco Krobler. Grant Sebastian in 17th, 18th Charles Darden, and Daniel De Villiers will be finishing up in 19th position despite the retirement. He was still counted in the pits.
Daniel basically parking the car and watching the stream in the garage.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. That was... Gentlemen, we have seen upsets of racing. You and I have been around for quite some time. We've seen the upsets, but not like this. This has been... it didn't feel like 55 minutes. It really didn't feel like
not at all.
it.
And, you know, it's... Who would have thought when we started out this race 55 odd minutes ago that we had Van der Merwe first, Alan Patterson second, Sanjan Pillay third? I mean, it didn't seem like it. And, you know, hats off to Alan Patterson. He just had a quiet race, you know, drove his race, and all of a sudden he saw himself.
Notice what he did. I want to point out, this is a very sneaky move. He backed off from the field on the race start. I was wondering, when did he do the pit stop? No, was it a drive-through? It was a drive-through. No, it was just a straight drive-through. I thought he did a pit stop. But this Lambo over here went and landed up getting a caught out on the start of the race, backing off while everyone was going side by side. Tactical move, maybe to avoid all the carnage. And as we see, very, very slow on the way through. So, an interesting move nonetheless. Not a very... not a move we get to see too often, the drivers pulling. But, as you said, we didn't expect to have this type of race. We didn't expect to see this type of outcome. But the drivers managed to blow away the expectations. Round 6 at Misano. Now, I won't lie, Misano's one of these circuits that I feel like I want to fall asleep watching, but not this time round. This was some proper racing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, you know, it started being one of those races where literally anything could happen. I mean, we had Morgan McCall cruising to a comfortable victory after a couple of... I mean, this is that pass of his again. I mean, this was just... I would say this is the season so far.
That was a sin. And waiting in the interview room is Alan Patterson, our fellow commentator. So let's bring him in. Alan Patterson, welcome. The PWSR driver that has had a season that's been rocky, but it seems like at Misano, it all came right. Second place out of nowhere, buddy. How are you feeling with that?
Indeed, yeah, it was a good one, eh? I was rather impressed with that. So yeah, Misano is definitely. I can drive around this track quite comfortably. I'm I struggle a lot on the other tracks. You know, Kota, for instance, I was stone last, and I was going hell for leather, and this was just a dawdle, in my opinion. There was no real pressure or anything. So yeah, it went well, man.
I've got to say, it was an absolute stellar run. And I mean, with having drivers disconnect, mechanical issues coming into play, did change things up completely. But the whole strategy seemed to have changed for you on the fly. And also coming to blows with your teammates a little bit earlier on.
We
were talking about, was that a bit of a touch, pause, engage?
Definitely not. So, yeah, listen, so Daniel's got himself a pair of load cells. He's been having drama, as you've seen in our endurance races, with his PC and his GPU, and he rebuilt the machine, but he didn't change the GPU. Now he's got a new GPU, and he also picked up a set of load cell pedals. And he hadn't had them fitted or welded or correctly mounted on the rig that he's got, so the angle of attack on his feet wasn't 100%. Then he dashed to go and have a, just before the race, came back and bumped. There's a rear stat or like an adjustment on the side of the pedal, and he bumped it. So on the race start, you guys were referencing he fell back. Well, he fell back because the pedals weren't working. He was pushing and they weren't really working, and he couldn't understand. Did he disconnect a cable or what the hell had happened? Yeah, so that was that's what happened to him.
All right,
Yeah.
so it makes a bit of sense there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it adds to the story of everything, and I mean,
Indeed.
we've seen guys have all sorts of interesting times. I mean, Paul Fenter going and busting his foot on his rig. He actually he managed to break his pinky toe. But the story that comes down to it, you got second place after all that. Was it something that you expected?
I didn't. I knew I had enough pace, and I knew the car was pretty quick. I was doing low 34s with like 80 and 90 liters in the car, so it was comfortable to drive, and I was happy with the setup. What happened was, in the early stages, Cam got a connect somewhere. There was a little bit of coming together, and he pitted and he came out. He also pitted early because that's my strat. I can't deal with driving in traffic. It helps for me just to get the strat over and done with, then I can just drive to the end of the race. And that's what I've tried to do the whole season. Came out just in front of me and was tiptoeing around and kind of going. And then I think he had an issue on the long back straight. There was a contact with somebody. I'm not too sure. And I think either there was some contact and he got hurt on the front of the car. So that slowed his aero down and he started having drama. So every time I just closed in on him, and we were talking, and like, must I let you go? And I'm going, I don't think so. You're fast enough. And just down through the first sector, he broke a little earlier than normal, and I was pushing through the boards here. I mean, I could hear my chair creaking, and I tapped him gently on the back. I mean, it was 0.2 on my car on damage, and he had just under 1 seconds worth. So
yeah, no,
I said sorry, but it was tiny.
It was the littlest. It's one of those a friendly kiss as it would go, but
totally.
Yeah. Also, well, before I go with my final question, Janeman, is there anything you want to say from your side while we've got Alan in the box? Because it's not every time we get to get Alan back on the mic.
No, I didn't want to actually.
No, not at all.
I mean, I'm not going to come and jump in here just for the sake of chatting, and there hasn't really been a reason this season, but I've got to ask both of you, what do you boys think of the liveries?
Oh, we were chatting about the liveries during the race. We think it's absolutely awesome, and
awesome.
You know, we try to throw in one or two rugby phrases in, like Stephen said, touch, pause, engage, and
wicked.
So we're looking forward to tomorrow evening. We'll track, but Alan, from my side, awesome racing. Awesome. We actually also made reference during the race, back in the day when me and you were duking it out around Misano, when I was still in the Aston and you were still driving Lexus.
Yes. That was the entry-level car. That's what we started this game with. So, we're going back 3 years. I mean, we've been here long now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we're part of the furniture now.
Yeah.
The old Bullies Association.
The old Bullies Association. There we go.
But absolutely well done on a positive result. Fantastic work on the livery out there. But what a race it was, down to the wire. And a few heartaches for the team, but a season starting to get to grips right towards the end. You've been keeping it as consistent as possible. The team has been on a positive charge throughout it. So the PWSR team has been on this growth, and also having new drivers coming into the fold does make things a bit more interesting, changes the dynamic little by little. But congratulations on the second place, Alan. Looking forward to chatting to you again, and don't be a stranger. It's nice to hear your voice again.
I will do, man. I'll keep in touch. I'll just let you know as well. Kieran landed last night, so I got to see him this afternoon. So he's back in South Africa. He should get his setup up and going soon. So next couple of rounds of endurance series, and possibly also in this series, we should see the kid back online and racing. So it's all good.
Absolutely
there we
brilliant.
go.
After his excursion in cricketing and going in, waving the flag. Fantastic to hear, and looking forward to seeing Kieran back on circuit. Alan, thank you very much for joining us, and we will chat to you next time. And see you.
Wicked.
Good luck for tomorrow night, and congratulations to the team.
Thanks, gents. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Cheers.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
So we got Van der Merwe just as a final, because we've got a couple of minutes to kill here. And Johan van der Merwe, what a run for you, buddy. It was a down-to-the-wire run. It looked a little bit heart-in-mouth situations, but ultimately strategy pulling off right towards the end. Some massive climbs for you. How are you feeling after that?
Hi, Stephen. Hi, Jan. How's it going? Basically sweating buckets at this stage. It was an interesting race. I just tried to stay out of trouble mostly, and try not to get corner cuts, because I think that was the biggest thing of this track is people go flat out and you cut by 5 centimeters, and you get a track warning. But I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting McCall to win, and I heard that he underfueled his car. So, yeah, interesting times.
You took a deep breath and were like, right, now it's now or never. Don't make a mistake at this point, but walking away with a good amount of points for your championship. And how was the start of the race? You started a little bit further down the order. We saw guys all scattering as cars were all over the show after 4 cars tried going into the corner. It was a bit of a crazy time. How was it from your perspective?
The starts, they're always a bit nerve-wracking, especially if you go 2 or 3 wide into corners that you can barely squeeze in one car and get a proper exit. But you're starting 6th, and I got a good launch of the start, and just trying to keep the space, not trying to get tangled up, and then basically just staying out of trouble and let the front guys sort themselves out. Saw a couple of spins in front of me, and again, just trying to avoid as much as I could.
And this being your first podium, if I'm correct, in the pro division, and what a run it is. And it's with the points gained, it would put you into the top 10 of the championship for the last little while. And that is a massive, massive thing, because not many people can attest to they raced against the biggest, the baddest, the fastest in South Africa, and now being able to score that podium spot. I'm sure that's going to be a nice little picture. Put it on the wall and keep it for memories at this point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, when I started Raceface, the top 20 was good enough for me, because normally when we qualify, you get maybe the first 25 guys within a second of each other. So for me, I was aiming for at least a top 10 in this race, and yeah, it really surprised me when I was just on podium pace. But unfortunately, with the disconnects that some of the guys have, we see it as a mechanical failure. But yeah, another guy's loss is another one's gain. So for me, I'm very happy.
No, it's a brilliant one, and congratulations. Well done on the first place. It took some time, it took some slugging, but you finally got it after so much time. So congratulations.
Yeah.
And Janneman, anything you want to say before we release Van der Merwe to go and enjoy the celebrations with the
celebrate.
team? Yes.
Just one question from my side, Johan. When you found out Morgan Underfield is going into the pits and you realize I can actually win this, what was going through your mind those last couple of laps, except don't stuff this up?
My initial thought was, okay, take it easy for now, but don't take it too easy, because the moment you take it easy, you make more mistakes than you actually, or if you push. So I was quite relieved, but it made me sweat a bit, because obviously, okay, you have one track cut left. So if this is done, then your race is done. So for me, it was just to try and relax a bit, but still keep the focus so that I can complete the lap.
So you won the race with one track limit left, getting a drive through.
Correct. Correct.
Yo.
So that's why I was a bit sweating,
That's
but
new
yeah,
meaning
at
to
least-
cutting it close.
yes.
A bit too close for comfort, but
And cutting it even closer, Robert McCall on the chat says that Morgan Short fueled by 1 liter.
Wow. Oh, that's heartbreaking actually. But I mean, he had a great race. I mean, his pace was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there were some times where he was like zero 0.8 up on my pace at the time. So really, congrats to him. And yeah, unfortunate.
well, it wasn't an easy race for everyone, and congratulations on that first place. What a victory! And well, now for a first time in a long time, you're gonna see yourself on a recap. So you get to see your car on the recap. But
Oh,
Johan Vandenberg, well done. The ZRC team going to be extremely proud with that result. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and well done on the race. Good luck for tomorrow, because it's going to be having to try and replicate the same magic you had tonight.
yep, gonna give my best. Thank you so much for the commentating. You guys really make a big difference in some racing. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Janaman.
Only a pleasure.
Thank you very much. We just coming into the homes and having your cool drinks, going eating your chips, going and talking your ear off, and
barge
leaving the
through the door.
That's it, and leaving the dirty dishes in the sink on the way out. So yeah, that's the way of going it. But I suggest rewatching the race, because it's a stellar one. To see the racing behind you, you might want to take a look at it. But well done once again on that first place. Jan van der Merwe from ZRC. We'll see you tomorrow for the racing here at Raceface for the Grid Championship, brought to you by Middle State and Raceface, powered by MTN tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Cheers.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Cheers.
So, something we haven't done in a while is interviews, but getting to chat to first and second, and two names we don't get to see on the podium too regularly. I think the concession of have a chat to them is not a bad idea, but heartbreaking to find out some of the news on the different things, such as like 1 liter short of the fuel. I mean, unfortunately, just coming into play. Then also having the likes of Daniel de Villiers with brand new pedals, going in, disconnecting his pedals, frantically trying to get it going again. Tonight's been full of thrill spills and all the drama you can ask for, but at the same time, it didn't feel like 55 minutes. But Janneman, that being said, let's take a look at what's coming up during this week and next week. Tomorrow evening, we have got the Grid Championship. We head back to Misano for all the cars to go and rock around. They're going to be getting themselves ready to have a bit of fun here for round 5 of the championship. After seeing tonight, are you excited?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll have to see what role load shedding plays tomorrow evening. Hopefully, Lady Luck is on our side and we have a nice full grid out on track, battling it out for top honors. But let's see what big role track limits are going to play tomorrow evening. Even I think the drivers, the best thing they can do is either the drivers that drove tonight, take the mistakes that they've made, try and learn from it. Unfortunately, technical difficulties or mechanical difficulties, not much you can learn from that if you were let down by a server or let down by an internet connection.
Other than kicking your pedals or your rig.
Yeah, kicking your pedals, kicking your rig, breaking your toe, that kind of thing. That's a lesson onto its own.
That's it. And, it also shows how close these guys are fueling their cars. This is the second car we've seen during the course of the season that landed up running short of fuel. Also coming up on the 9th of September, we head out to Hockenheim, round 5 of Automobilista 2. And guys are going to be having a bit of fun in the F1 cars at Automobilista 2, so keep an eye out on all that action. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Next week, we do have the final race of the iRacing TCR Championship, Season 2 at Okayama, brought to you by Raceface. It's going to be the final, 2 20-minute heats, and all to go for. Everyone laying it out on the line. Really, really looking forward to seeing how that's going to work out. And going and capping off the season after some spectacular racing. Also coming up on the 12th of September, we head out to Qatar for round 8 of our Raceface F1 2023 League. They've been having a bunch of fun out there. A phoenix from the ashes, I can say. The cars, a lot of fun. The sim being a lot of fun as well. Guys having to really dial in the cars. Let's see who will break Brandon Kruger's streak. Will we have a new person on the championship? Well, in the podium, as we've seen every week now, there has been a new name, so it's good to see that. And that's for the Raceface F1 2023 on the 12th of September. Then we have next week, GT3 Sprint Series Season 10. We head back, finally, can I say. It's been far too long. We come back to South Africa to race around Kyalami. Finally.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been around to Kyalami for quite some time now, so it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Do the drivers still remember the track?
Well, if not, Cheetah will definitely remind the drivers, or driving down the mine shaft into the bowl. So that is next week, 13th of September on Wednesday. So make sure you stick around for that. It's going to be incredible stuff. The guys are looking to have a bit of fun. We also have our grid championship on the Thursday. Coming up, also, we on the 19th of September, we have our final round of our first season of the F4s on iRacing, brought to you by Raceface at Okayama. They're running bi-weekly. Also 2 races, 20-minute races. It's absolutely amazing that it's now coming to an end. We've seen some spectacular racing. The guys looking to really push the boundaries and get going once again. So looking forward to seeing all the action out on the circuit for our Season 1 of the F4s. But Janman, that has brought us to the end of the evening. And I've got to say, when do we start the next one? When do we start? Because that was a hell of a lot of fun. And it does look like Janman has gone and lost.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry.
You're back. I thought
I'm
you
back.
lost your
Sorry, wrong
microphone.
No. I was saying we can start the next one tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
I'll give it 2 hours. And then we just go racing. Why not? Because I want to see what happens here at Misano. It was absolutely phenomenal. And if anything of tonight is to go by, whatever you think, whoever you think is going to come in whatever position through our pro all the way down to our silver class, well, take that, lob it in the bin, and watch the race, because expect the unexpected tomorrow evening based on tonight. And that is for certain. But gentlemen, if you have to put everything into closing, all your thoughts into it in just a couple of seconds, what do you have to say for yourself?
Unpredictable. That's exactly what this race was. We couldn't predict it. So we'll have to see how predictable tomorrow evening is going to be. But don't get your hopes up too soon on that one.
No, not at all. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us here at Raceface. Make sure you hit the subscribe button along with that bell notification icon to get known of all the racing going on. A big thank you to all our sponsors that have been with us the entire season so far as we're getting closer and closer to the end. And a big thank you to all the guys working hard behind the scenes to make it all happen here at Raceface. We take our hats off to you, and you have to deal with us the whole time. But also a big thank you to you guys, the spectators, the drivers, the teams, the loved ones, the families, everyone, allowing us to come into your home, chat your ear off, go and see some amazing action. We look forward to seeing what happens tomorrow evening here at Raceface. Make sure to follow us on social media, out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as we get a whole bunch of information coming out to you guys and you don't want to miss it. Sometimes we even drop a little secret here and there that you don't know about, that you don't get to see on the broadcast, so it's worth taking a look. Also join us in our Discord at Raceface.pro to come and engage with everyone and also be a part of the community. Find out how you can get involved. Also head over to Raceface.pro, www.raceface.pro, to go and register. Events are still open. It's not too late to get your entry in and be a part of the racing that's happening. Doesn't matter whether you're the best in the country or whether you're just a casual driver that wants to have a bit of friendly competition. We got it all here at Raceface, and you don't want to miss it. On behalf of myself, Stephen Koenig, and also a big thank you to my co-commentator, Janneman Price, the world's slowest alien. Janneman, it's going to be a fun one. Can't wait to see it. But like always, we're going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.